Hi, everybody. It's Paige Michaelis, the 1 Minute Mommy, and this is a moment to parent. I'm here today with Dana Callahan, and she is going to chat with us just a little bit about some of the challenges that are going on with kids today, some of the ways in which she has personally been able to handle the communication piece with her children, and then also how she's been able to handle some of the, parenting fears in terms of how do you get over the immediate reaction and the immediate kind of, don't talk to me about those kinds of things with her own kids. So, Dana, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
I am a mom to a 15-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old boy. So we've got a wide age span between the two. And then one boy, one girl. So I've got completely different concerns on each end. And then they both have their own personalities, which don't even relate.
right. Which most of the time that happens, right? So this kind of came about because we were having a discussion just about some of the challenges that were going on with children today. And can you share with us just, how have you been able to keep the lines of communication open with your children? Kind of what was the process that you went through? Are there specific things that you do so that especially your 15-year-old isn't going, okay, don't talk to me right now because I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
So if you can share about
The
that.
biggest thing was starting when they were infants. We talked about anything and everything, as every mom knows when they're that age. If they're walking into the bathroom with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the most uncomfortable time for me as a parent. That's your private moment. And then you've got this little one watching everything you do. So I was very sheltered. I was not told anything as a child. And as a teenager, I was still not told anything until I had to be told. And even when I was told, it was a pamphlet thrown on my bed saying, here, read this. So I didn't want to be that mom. I wanted my children to feel safe asking me questions because I know I had questions. And I did not feel safe asking them, so I never asked. And I want my children to feel that way. So as uncomfortable as it was in the bathroom, I let them stay. I didn't kick them out no matter when they were in there with me. And I used it as a teachable moment because they're so little at that point. They don't feel the discomfort that I felt. It's just another day to them. They're full of learning new things, and this is just one more topic that they're learning about.
Right.
So it all started back then, and a little bit more as they got older, so that we're on an age appropriate. But I always tried to stay one step ahead of when they were going to need that knowledge, because I may not be there when they need the knowledge.
Right. So what I heard you talking about was that you asked a lot of questions of them, or they're asking questions of you, but then in order to keep the lines of communication open, you're also asking them questions as well.
Yeah.
So that's a very important piece to it because oftentimes as parents, we want to be able to give all of our knowledge. Like, here, you need to know this, you need to know this, you need to know this, but sometimes that's when the wall can go up, right? So to be able to ask questions of your child as well is a very key piece to it. So you also mentioned when we were talking before that your questioning of your daughter is kind of more around a coaching process too, right?
Yeah, once she got older, and there were more choices that become available, once they can ride a bicycle, and their world gets a little bit bigger than inside the home or the neighbor next door. Things just get bigger because they're getting older and they can do more things. And so I would try to approach information when it was not important, because if she's made these choices and I bring them up at that time, she will be defensive because she knows she's already made a bad choice. If I talk about them before she even thinks about them as a choice, she has the knowledge. Now she has the tools to make an educated decision, both my son and my daughter. They hear me talking about it when it's not important. And talking about it when it's not an issue removes all of that uncomfortable, should we be talking about this?
Right.
And because I've been doing it since they were so little, a hot topic conversation now is just a conversation with a hot topic.
Right.
And there's no discomfort at all. My daughter and I, we can talk about anything. And I don't get the least little bit of don't ask me that. You can't ask me that. You know?
Right. And there has to be certain times when you're having those conversations, right? Certain times are better than other times.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it could just be because it crosses my mind. And there's nothing else going on. You know, you don't want to talk about it during an argument. You don't want to talk about it if they're thinking about it at the moment. Because they're not going to listen as well because they're thinking that you're going to judge them. But you talk about it when really nothing else is happening. And maybe there was something on television, or I'm driving, I said, oh, and you know what? I know that we weren't talking about this, but let's talk about such and such. Mom, although my daughter likes it now. She loves these conversations. My son, Mom, do I have to? Mom, I don't. Mom, I know. So I can't do that with my son.
Right.
But my daughter, I can, but I will talk to my daughter in front of my son because I know he's listening in a way that he doesn't feel like he's on the block.
Right. Okay. So different children, different approaches, different ages, and so then different pieces of information also, because obviously this has to be age appropriate too, because your 15-year-old is dealing with different things than your 8-year-old, and you don't necessarily want to bring up all of that same stuff to your 8-year-old at this point.
Right.
And so as parents, we have to be aware of, okay, when is this going to become an issue? So then how do we figure out when it's going to become an issue?
Watch the news. Do a lot of Google search. Start reading the little clips that come across your Facebook. That's, because I'm like, really? They're smoking at 9? Okay, better talk about it before 9 years old happens.
9, yes.
And one issue that I have not even considered, didn't even think about, was cutting. Once I have been exposed to this, because my daughter mentioned, Mom, you know that friends of mine, the girls at my school, they cut themselves. I'm like, what? What is cutting? Now I'm Googling, now I'm looking up, I'm looking at what the ages are. Right. So you kind of have to keep up with it. I mean, that was something that, to my knowledge, didn't exist when I was a teenager. Right. I'm sure it did, but now with the social media, a habit or a choice goes wild, and now it's been exposed to children who may or may not have thought of it as an option before.
Right. So there's more awareness with the kids about that being an option or being something to try, and so then more kids are potentially trying it. Yeah. Well, they are.
They are.
To your experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so our conversations really, if you go down to the bottom level of it, it's all about self-esteem, worthiness, respect. We are a faith-based family, so a lot of our conversations are going to be faith-based. In knowing that no matter what is given to us, we always have our faith to get us through, especially when things are at their hardest moments. There's a lot of different things, not just the teenagers going through. Something that I hadn't mentioned to you is we are in a transition now where I'm looking for work. Right. Puts our family in a totally different place. How much do I tell my daughter? And I wasn't going to tell her. And I'm like, no, I have to tell her. Because when I say, no, I can't drive you there, but then you don't want to scare her.
Right.
So it's been a big juggle, but we've also experienced it when I became a single mom.
Right.
So we've lived through it and came out better on the other end. Right. So it's just one of those experiences where conversation and openness, as hard as trust me, I did not want to tell my daughter, hey, work slowed down too much. And things changed. It was very, very difficult to have to present this to my children. And I hadn't told my son, but I had to tell my son too. He's only 8. He's fine with it. Okay, no problem.
Right.
And my daughter, she's fine with it too, because we've talked about it. We know what our options are. We know that as a team, we get through it.
Yes, and I think that's one of the main points is you're sharing this kind of information so that your children feel that they have belonging and significance and are part of your team, your family team.
Yes.
If you chose to not tell them any of this, they're still going to feel your stress. They're still going to feel your anxiety over trying to find a new job. They're still going to experience all of these things, but then there's going to be confusion because they're not going to know really what's going on. And the other thing that I wanted to say based on what you were talking about in terms of self-esteem, in terms of worthiness, in terms of respect is that by coaching her and by having these conversations with her, you are actually helping to develop that within her.
Yes.
And you are also treating her in that way. You're treating her with worthiness. You're treating her with respect because you're talking to her like, I believe in you. I trust you.
Yes, with this information, I trust you.
Yes. And that is amazing. That is amazing.
Her friends do not talk to their parents. They don't feel confident or safe in opening up the conversations of worry or concern, or no, I can't tell my mom that, or no, I can't ask my mom. Even the simple things, they're like, oh no, I'm not talking to my mom about that. And because, again, I started when they were babies, I can't imagine even having to start these conversations at the age of 9 or 10 had I not already put a foundation out there. So those who haven't had the conversation yet, and you have that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe even a 15-year-old, you're going to feel that discomfort. But I think with what you were just saying, by treating it with the worthiness and that I trust you with this information. I know we're both going to be uncomfortable with this. I really believe that honesty with your child, the honesty that, I'm a bit afraid to bring this up to you, but I feel it's important to talk to you about this. I'm a little bit uncomfortable about this. I know you're going to be uncomfortable, but just bear with me. Let's just talk for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And if your child is listening and you want to talk for 20 minutes, talk for 20.
Right.
If you see them wiggling like my 8-year-old, I know we can get maybe 2 minutes of deep conversation in on a good day.
Right, and that's also a good point. I mean, if you're not having these conversations yet, then some of the things to do would be to pick an appropriate time to do it. Obviously not when you're in the heat of the moment, not when, as Dana said, when your child is already ruminating about it, but at a calm time when you're connected with your child. Also, start slow. Start very slow, because the likelihood that your child is going to push back on you and say, I do not want to talk about any of this with you ever, is probably going to happen. And so be prepared for that, and be prepared for the rejection, because this is new for them. This is new for them, for you to be saying, hey, I want to talk to you now. And they're saying, I don't think so. So, but you have to keep trying. And if you take it in baby steps, like Dana said, even if it's a 1-minute conversation, hey, what's going on for you today? Hey, was there anything at school that came up today? Or whatever it is, however you feel most comfortable in approaching it, then start small and keep trying. So we're out of time today, and Dana, thank you so much. I want to have you back because we want to also talk about the fears of parenting and just kind of how some of the work that she's done to be able to handle these things as they've come up. So thank you, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful. If you like it, please like it on Facebook. Please make comments on my website or on the YouTube page. www.oneminutemommy.com. Take care.